Hi. I thought maybe you'd like to know a little bit about working with me before you plunge in or get more curious. So I'm going to start in the David Copperfield way and say that I can report that I was born. I say that because I actually remember the blue-white light that I came from. I remember making the decision to reincarnate. I couldn't have told you about the contract. I don't exactly remember that, but I remember making the decision. I remember the light coming into the body. I remember those moments of infusion. I remember the pregnancy. I remember being born. I remember who caught me, being born in the house of my mother's spiritual teacher, which is a little weird, but for me it was normal. And I grew up thinking that it was strange that people pretended not to hear each other think when everyone has that intuition. Everyone is telepathic. And not understanding why those inherent abilities that are there for all of us weren't more present or weren't developed or weren't encouraged. Because in other worlds, they are. In other dimensions, other lifetimes, they have been. So I spent a lot of years growing up learning about that and learning to kind of keep my mouth shut and not answer what people thinking because it was rude, you know. And then I started to really study because the only thing that mattered to me was consciousness and sound. What I came in to do, what I wanted to do was just sing to the divine, sing her songs, play her music, rejoice in that, and let everyone hear it. I wanted to sing to God, as some of you put it, because really, for me, that was the cool game, was consciousness, consciousness and that, nature, the natural world, the creature beings, the animals, and music were it. So I spent a lot of time talking to nature. I spent time with trees. The silver birches outside the back of one of the houses we lived in were my best friends. Not that I didn't have others, but they got it. And some of the animals outside. So I spent a lot of time as what you might call an introvert or kind of a loner, and I read everything I could get my hands on. And that included a lot of the spiritual classics, even that though a child that age isn't supposed to read those, but I remembered some of them. Some of them were a little boring, but I got through them. And then I started to be interested in Eastern thought. And that show came on, Kung Fu with David Carradine. And it changed everything for me because I didn't want to run away and join a temple like that. I knew he'd done that before, but what I wanted was that level of dedication. I knew there was something else there. So I really started to look at the Eastern traditions. I read all the books. I studied everything that I could. And when I was a little bit older, I started studying with different teachers. So I studied many paths. I was ordained in three of them, one yogic, one Buddhist, and one in the goddess traditions. And I simply took the ordination because it was the next step. It was a higher level of light and grace. But I kept looking, I kept seeking, and I would not just necessarily outgrow something, but I would find the truth in it and then think there has to be more. Consciousness always has more. There's a deeper song to sing. There's a symphony that's being played out there, and these are just a few of the instruments. So I would go for more. And I had left my mystery school teacher I studied with for 13 years, and I had gone through the yogic program for 4 or 5 years. I had just left that. And I'm sort of rereading all the books because I wanted my own perspective on the classics instead of what I had been taught to think. Right about that time, the Great Mother, the Infinite, took me by the back of the neck, took me by the scruff, and shook me really hard. For those of you who know Kali, you know what that's like. She just said, "That's enough of that," in the actual words. I didn't know what she meant at the time. I'd already started working with people. I had begun teaching a bit, and I was teaching a lot of the things I'd been taught, but maybe in a little bit different way, in the way it was coming through me. But I didn't really know where to go next. And so, as often happens with this, my whole life fell apart. I had some really interesting visions, and I write about that a little bit in my new book, Walk a New Way. But also what happened is, like, the ways I was making money just collapsed. They all flatlined. And I ended up declaring bankruptcy, which was something I never would have done. I am a fiscally responsible person. I worked in IT for years. I was a 27-year martial artist. I taught. I had my own school. I was responsible. And I didn't want to declare bankruptcy. But it was the quickest way that the infinite could just level my playing field so that I could move forward. Hindsight being what it is. I know that now. And at the time, though, I had no fear. I had no angst about it. I had my tough days, but I really didn't have any fear. I knew that I was being pulled through this. And a few months after I left, I moved to the mountains. I had a white stroke. This is where they don't bleed. So it's a little less severe than like Jill Bolte Taylor's one that she wrote about in A Stroke of Insight, but it still took me 8 years for my body to fully recover. And during that time, I found that I was being guided to question everything, every belief, every teaching, everything I'd been taught, all of the paths, the dogma of it, not the truth. There's truth in all of them. That light and that love is everywhere. It's in every teaching. But all of the rules and the ways that, well, it has to be done this way. And I had always thought, why? But this was really being shown. No, there's a new energy coming now. The Great Mother's back in town, and it's a new energy, and we all need to learn these things different. So 8 years after the stroke, Chalice of Wisdom was born, and it's a new way of presenting being held by her light, her love, and from this place where she doesn't ever let go of the back of my neck, but I'm really happy with that. She puts me in her currents, in her infinite streams, and I live in a constant state of flow, a constant state of synchronicity, a constant state of what people call these miraculous moments or these quantum leap moments where that's my life. That's how I live now. And if there's any way that I can sing that song with somebody, help them to be their instrument or play their part in that symphony, then it's really my joy and my privilege to do that. So I hope that you will visit some of the category pages in the site, look at Essence Tuning, look at Journeys, look at some of the other offerings, and hopefully we can spend a little bit of time together. So that would be fun.